New route cutting through central Kowloon opens. Epstein file photos disappear from U.S. government website. And the U.S. seizes a second vessel off Venezuelan coast. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Yau Ma Tei section of the Central Kowloon bypass opened to traffic on Sunday morning. The journey time from Kai Tak to the West Kowloon Highway took about 6 minutes in total. Mimosa Ngai reports.
After 8 years of construction, the Yau Ma Tei section of the Central Kowloon bypass officially opened to traffic at 10 a.m. These vehicles became the first batch to experience the trunk road. With a total length of 4.7 kilometers, the bypass connects Kowloon East and West. Authorities said that the new road can reduce drivers' journey time from 30 minutes to 5 at peak hours. TVB News tested out the bypass via Shin Kai Road, one of the 8 entrances and exits at the Kai Tak end of the bypass, heading to the West Kowloon Highway. We then entered a tunnel. At the exit, drivers can see a direction board pointing out the various ways to which one can travel. The whole journey took us about 6 minutes, which is similar to the government's estimated time. Meanwhile, some drivers said they would not test out the bypass immediately.
Because too many people will go all the way to try that new road, then maybe it cannot be suddenly digest. So I think it takes time to digest the road traffic, and then maybe you can know the real situation.
Good for the drivers, because I'm living in Cheng Kwan O. I normally drive from Cheng Kwan O to Kwai Chung or Chuen Wan region. So if the traveling time substantially reduced, and I will consider the central bypass. I think traveling time is more important. So if I need to pay, well, let's say $8, then I think it's okay for me.
Starting from Monday, a total of 8 bus routes will provide services via the Central Kowloon bypass during peak hours on weekdays. 3 of the 8 routes are new, while the rest are adjusted existing lines. The Shen Yue Road bus station in Kowloon Bay has put up information cards to remind passengers about the new transport options. Bright yellow signs for the new bus routes 252S and 33X also appeared on the ground. Memos 9, TVB News.
Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan said the completion of the Central Kowloon bypass is a perfect example of the Hong Kong spirit and stressed that getting infrastructure projects done is key to getting the city back on track. Celine Chan has more.
The opening ceremony of the bypass's Yau Ma Tei stretch was held at its eastern entrance. Joined by top officials from the Highways Department and the Transport Department, Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan attended the ceremony to witness the historical moment. In her speech, the secretary noted that the project utilized multiple technologies and surmounted obstacles, including the pandemic, calling its completion an embodiment of the Hong Kong spirit, as it is a result of the engineering team's perseverance, resilience, and dedication. She said the team used every trick in the book to get the link done, and seeing its completion was truly moving and exciting. The Transport Minister added that while it was heartbreaking for the city to experience the massive blaze in Tai Po, Hong Kong needs to recover and there cannot be a halt for social and economic development, especially for infrastructure. The secretary and other guests then hopped on an open-top bus to try out the new road before its official launch. The round trip took about 15 minutes. The group of guests then headed to the Central Kowloon Route Administration building to witness the official opening of the link. And went up to the building's podium to snap a few pictures for the memories. The Central Kowloon bypass took 8 years to build and cost over $40 billion. The entire bypass, including the Kowloon Bay section, will be fully commissioned in 2026. The bypass consists of mostly tunnels with approximately 240 buildings above it. To ensure the tunnel alignment avoided building foundations, the drill and blast construction was carried out deep into the underlying rock strata, reaching a depth of about 150 meters below ground at its deepest point, with some 2,400 blasts being executed. The tunnel also passes extremely close to the MTR lines, with a minimum distance of only 3 meters, which is about the height of a story, making the project something experts called a world-class engineering challenge. Celine Chan, TVB News.
Today is the winter solstice, traditionally one of the most important celebrations for Chinese families. Many headed to wet markets to prepare for family gatherings this morning. This year's winter solstice falls on a Sunday. Some residents went to this wet market in Wanchai early in the morning, filling their hands with groceries. Some say they are preparing a feast for 8 to 10 people tonight. Several other residents say seafood and vegetables have become pricier than regular days. Still, some vendors say this year's business is weaker than last year, owing to subdued social atmosphere and growing habits of spending weekends up north. At least 16 files disappeared from the U.S. Justice Department's public website for documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, including a photograph showing President Donald Trump. This less than a day after they were posted amid the release of thousands of files related to the case. Nasri Karim with more.
They were on the Justice Department's website on Friday. By Saturday, they were gone. 16 files have disappeared. Missing were images of paintings depicting nude women and one showing a series of photos along a sideboard and in drawers. One of these pictures features Donald Trump. The Justice Department did not explain why the files were removed nor whether it was intentional. Earlier, a partial release of photos showed a number of celebrity names, including former President Bill Clinton, Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson, the former Prince Andrew, and others. None of the pictures showed any wrongdoing. Democrats from the House Oversight Committee wrote on X, "What else is being covered up? We need transparency for the American people." Concerns are raised that the tens of thousands of files made public in the much-awaited release offered little new insight into Epstein's crimes and how he managed to avoid prosecution for years. Meanwhile, the release of documents, the result of a vote in Congress to make the files public, shows that the FBI was alerted to Epstein's activities as early as 1996. That was when an artist working for Epstein in New York, Maria Farmer, went to the agency asking them to investigate him for child pornography. Farmer's lawyer, Jennifer Freeman, said the FBI could have stopped Epstein almost 30 years ago.
We've spent many years trying to get her records through Freedom of Information Act requests, which are the classic way to get them. And we've never seen anything before corroborating her 1996 report. But we just saw it yesterday for the first time in 30 years, which is remarkable, really remarkable. Maria Farmer did exactly what she has said for 30 years that she did. She reported Epstein to the authorities, to the federal authorities, to the FBI. And as far as we can tell, and I wish I knew, Kristen, I wish I had more information out of the files or otherwise, it looks like the government did absolutely nothing.
Freeman added the DOJ has not handled the release well, with major redactions and documents that survivors and their lawyers are still waiting for. Nasri Karim, TVB News.
The United States has intercepted an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela in international waters. The move comes just days after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela. Tracy Furness has more.
Footage from the U.S. Department of Defense showed U.S. forces stopping an oil tanker Saturday off the coast of Venezuela for the second time this month. U.S. military fast-roping from a helicopter onto the ship. The pre-dawn operation comes days after Trump announced a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers coming in and out of the South American country. It also follows the December 10th seizure by American forces of an oil tanker off Venezuela's coast. A move by U.S. President Donald Trump to ramp up pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem confirmed the U.S. Coast Guard with the Defense Department stopped the oil tanker that was last docked in Venezuela. She wrote on social media that the U.S. helicopter landed personnel on a vessel called Centuries. A US official speaking anonymously said the action was a consented boarding, with the tanker stopping voluntarily and allowing US forces to board it. Trump has cited lost US investments in Venezuela as reason for his pressure campaign on Maduro, suggesting the Republican administration's moves are somewhat motivated by disputes over oil investments, along with accusations of drug trafficking. The crude on the Century's oil tanker was reportedly bought by one of many intermediaries involved in sales to Chinese independent refiners, according to Venezuelan state oil company's PDVSA's documents. Some sanctioned tankers already are diverting away from Venezuela. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
According to an earlier Kyodo News report, a senior Japanese official involved in devising security policy under Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's government told media that Japan should possess nuclear weapons. Former Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said that possessing nuclear weapons would never be beneficial for Japan. He said that Tokyo would then have to withdraw from Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons and the International Atomic Energy Agency. He noted that it would in turn affect Japan's nuclear policy, which supports its energy needs, making it unviable. The purported statement from the unnamed senior official also drew condemnation from North Korea, with the state media KCNA condemning the suggestion as something that should be thoroughly curbed. China's Xinhua news agency also commented that the international community must respond with a clear and firm voice against the idea. And still ahead, Ukraine and Portugal leaders meet in Kyiv as Russians and Americans hold talks in Florida. Imran Khan and his wife sentenced to 17 years in Pakistan's state gift case. Winter tourism in Chinese mainland. Welcome back. U.S. negotiators met Russian officials in Florida for the latest talks aimed at ending Russia's war in Ukraine. This as U.S. President Donald Trump's administration tries to coax an agreement out of both sides to end the conflict. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The Miami meeting followed U.S. talks on Friday with Ukrainian and European officials, the latest discussions about a peace plan that has sparked some hope of a resolution to the conflict in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin's special envoy Kirill Dmitriev told reporters after meeting U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner the talks were constructive and would continue on Sunday. Marco Rubio, Trump's top diplomat and national security advisor, had said he might also participate. Elsewhere, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with Portuguese Prime Minister Luis Montenegro in Kyiv. During the visit, Montenegro and Zelensky laid flowers at the tomb of Ukrainian soldiers. Speaking at a joint news conference, Zelensky commented on the progress of peace talks with Russia. Zelensky said the United States said it would hold a separate meeting with Russian representatives and proposed a format that, as he understood it, would include Ukraine, the United States and the Russians. He added since there are also European representatives involved, Europe would likely be part of it as well. Zelensky said he would back the proposal for three-sided talks if it facilitated more exchanges of prisoners and paved the way for meetings of national leaders. Answering a question about Russia's proposal to hold elections for Ukrainian citizens living on its territory, Zelensky said elections cannot be held in territories not controlled by Ukraine in temporarily occupied territories. Zelensky also said Ukraine and Portugal signed an agreement to establish joint production of maritime drones. He called it one of the most promising areas of defense cooperation. Zelensky stated what matters now is delivering results, and all parts of Europe must have sufficient capabilities to counter any threats. Daniel TV News.
Thousands of people gathered at Sydney's Bondi Beach to hold a minute's silence in memory of the victims of last week's mass shooting. A local rabbi lit candles at 6:47 p.m. to collectively commemorate the moment the first shots rang out exactly a week earlier. The federal and New South Wales governments have declared Sunday a national day of reflection. Meanwhile, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced a review of the nation's federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies following last week's attack, which was allegedly inspired by the Islamic State group. A Pakistani court convicted and sentenced in prison former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife Bushra Bibi to 17 years in prison after finding them guilty of retaining and selling state gifts, officials and his party said. The couple pleaded not guilty when they were indicted last year. They were accused of selling the gifts at prices far below their market value while he was in office. Prosecutors said Khan and his wife declared the value of the gifts at a little over $10,000 when their actual market value was more than $285,000. Khan's spokesperson says Saturday's sentencing ignored basic principles of justice and said it raised questions about the fairness of the process. His opposition party, the PTI, denounced the ruling, calling it a black chapter in history. Khan, 73, was ousted in a no-confidence vote in April 2022. The government has applied to dissolve the Management Committee of the Owners Corporation of Firehead Wanful Court in Taipo and replace it with a property management company to assist with post-fire legal and financial matters. Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs Alice Mack says the arrangement will not impact ongoing investigative work. The government applied to the Lands Tribunal for the dissolution of the Management Committee of the Owners Corporation of Wanful Court and proposed to appoint a subsidiary of China Chem Group, Hop-On Management, to take over follow-up work for residents. Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs Alice Mack says, in accordance with legal procedures, the current management committee has been notified via various avenues about the latest situation. They include publishing a notice in the newspaper on Monday, and it is expected that the Lands Tribunal will have a preliminary judgment early next month. If approved, Hop-On will immediately commence its work such as obtaining contracts, bank account balances, and insurance policies from the current management committee. Mack reiterates the powers and rights of the Owners Corporation will not be whittled away. She says the future work of the appointee includes convening meetings to handle the repair funds. All owners must be notified 14 days before the meeting is held with the agenda published in advance. Payment for services from the fund must go through a procurement process. Responding to concerns online that this arrangement might allow some parties to shirk their onus in the aftermath, Mack also stresses the arrangement would not impact the ongoing investigation efforts. She says those responsible will be held accountable. Mack says Hop-On has 40 years of experience, and after the takeover of tasks, a report will be submitted to the Home Affairs Department every month and every 3 months to the Lands Tribunal, which is more than the legal requirements. A burst water pipe has led to the suspension of fresh water supplies in multiple housing estates in Shengshui, affecting around 6,000 to 7,000 households. The Water Supplies Department says it's targeting to complete emergency repair works by 4 a.m. The affected pipe, with a diameter of 400 millimeters, is located on Sanwan Road near So Kun Po Road. Authorities say inspections found the burst main is encased in concrete with a dense network of public underground wires and pipes, making the repair work more complex. Authorities have deployed water tankers to provide emergency fresh water to affected residents. Many could be seen bringing their kettles, plastic containers, and buckets to the collection points. Some residents say they have bought groceries for the family's winter solstice feast, so they have to come and get the emergency fresh water. Commissioner for Chinese Medicine Development Vincent Chung said authorities aim to increase residents' awareness of medical treatments involving Chinese medicine practitioners and Western doctors. The government released the Chinese Medicine Development Blueprint on Thursday. Speaking on a TVB program, Chung said the document will provide residents information on what illnesses can best be treated with traditional Chinese medicine and what can be helped with the combination of Chinese and Western medication. Chung said the next step is to introduce the traditional Chinese medicine version of chronic disease co-management program. Tourist destinations in China are rolling out creative scenarios and new business models to boost visitor arrivals as the country is embracing a winter tourism peak. Tracy Furness has more.
Something for the young, learning about China's ancient past via XR or extended reality as they view Emperor Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum, home of the Terracotta Army. For those who like to stay active outdoors, Pura City, Yunnan Province offers coffee making, from picking the beans and sorting them to roasting. History buffs can stroll around a Song Dynasty-themed area in Kaifeng City, Henan Province, and enjoy more culture in Jiangzhou City, Henan. Huangshan City in Anhui Province puts on lantern parades for tourists, brightening up the evening with colourful lanterns. But first you can learn how to make them. But for the ultimate winter experience, Zhejiang Province has launched 10 winter tourism scenarios focusing on food, sports, events and cultural heritage. Sichuan Province too has launched a new series of winter tourism programs in association with ski resorts and ice and snow scenic spots in neighbouring Chongqing municipality. In northeast China's Jilin Province, the 29th Changchun Ice and Snow Festival has opened, offering visitors an immersive experience with unique ice sculptures, snowscapes and winter sports events. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching and have a great week ahead.